Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Saturday MP Show, episode number 19, recorded November 14th, 2023. This is a show that helps you ship secure, high-quality software faster. And we'll do that by some coding demos, some live coding, answering questions, stuff along those lines. And today we're actually going to answer a question that I got on a previous video. So on this Saturday Show 16, where I tried out Docker Compose Watch, I got a question about volumes and are they really a two-way sync? Because in the video, I kind of somewhat erroneously said that volumes, like the Docker Compose Watch, is a one-way sync from the host to the container, but volumes were a two-way sync, and they're kind of a two-way sync, but not really, due to the fact that the volume only exists inside the container when it's mapped. Once you unmap or unmount that volume, you won't be able to access those files inside the container anymore. So I figured I'd just record a video based on that question. I figured I'd just record a video kind of going over the differences between Docker volumes and Docker Compose Watch. And we'll just see how this goes. So yeah, for those that don't know, again, this is some live coding, so there'll probably be some errors and some some ums and just mistakes. So if you spot any, or you have any questions you want me to answer, or you actually like the video and you thought I did a good job and you want me to answer a question in a future video, send me an email to ask@SaturdayMP.com. That's ask@SaturdayMP.com, or you can just leave a comment down below, and I do my best to answer any questions that people will ask, either in the comments themselves or in a future video. So yeah, so for starters, first thing, if you're curious about volumes, you can find them here. Just Google or search for this, and then Docker Compose. The URL is file watch, but the actual term for Docker Compose Watch is they call it Docker Compose Watch, but the URL has file watch for some reason in it. And the other thing to note is you need a newer version of Docker Compose to use the watch feature. If you have an older version, it won't be available. So whereas Docker Volumes has been around, if you're using a version of Docker that doesn't have volumes, it'd be pretty old. The other thing to note is Docker Compose Watch only works with Docker Compose, hence it's part of the name, where volumes actually works with Docker or Docker Compose. So you can mount your volumes through Docker Compose, or you can just mount them directly using the Docker command line. So in this case, we're going to use Docker Compose for both of them, just because most of the time too, and I'm kind of comparing these from a development point of view, where I like to use Docker volumes for development. I find they really speed up my development, and even if they're not used in production, like say the application is being installed on like a physical server or like an AWS VM or something like that, I will still use Docker for my development environment and just get it to match production as closely as I can. It's just a great tool for development. So and I'm a consultant, so often I have multiple clients, and I don't want to have different versions of Ruby or PHP or other third-party libraries installed on my system. With Docker, I can just install, or I can have each client can have their own kind of isolated development environment. So okay, so that's kind of that. Let's get this out of the way. So I did do a little bit of mucking around. Oftentimes I just record these videos on the fly, but for this video, I decided to set up the Docker container using Node.js kind of as our test environment. And I'm actually not very familiar with Node.js, so I'm going to learn a little bit when I do this, when I do record this video. And so I did do a little bit of pre-setup. So like I have kind of the files here, and kind of some steps I did. So this isn't quite a bare bones walkthrough. I did a little bit of experimenting, but I'm sure, like I said, always live coding, there's bound to be some mistakes and stuff. So All right, so let's get started. So I guess the first thing we'll do is we're going to show we'll show how Docker volumes work just on a very basic kind of application, like just kind of one little file. And then we will show how Docker watch would work on that simple file. And then we'll set it up, time permitting. We'll see how long this video ends up running. Time permitting, we'll set up a Node.js kind of web application. I think, what is that framework called? Express. I think we'll just use that Express framework to get everything up and running. And then that's kind of a more realistic example of someone actually doing development. And then we can see how Docker volumes compares to the Docker Compose watch. So in this example, I'm just going to be using Visual Studio Code. I could use the Ruby, not the Ruby, the WebStorm IDE. Oh, it's not going to show up. Oh, there it goes. But yeah, we'll just stick with Visual Studio. It'll just be a little easier. So, a little lightweight editor. I don't need a lot of stuff going on. Okay. I guess I have to. All right. Sure. Let's just reload that. Oh, okay, good. That was nice and quick. See, you get to watch live coding. Or I realized I try to open all the tabs and get all the cookie notifications out of the way, all that crap, and have everything updated. But there's always something you forget. All right, so let's start. So let's first create our Docker file, which we kind of don't really need to do in this case. We could probably, because I'm not going to really customize it, at least not in this example. But in most, when you're actually setting up a development environment, you're going to probably customize it. So if I was doing this for a client, I either grab the Node, Ruby, PHP application that matches their version and try to match their operating system. Or sometimes I will just install it from, like if they have a whatever, like this from will be the actual operating system, and then down below I will run commands to install the various tools and libraries that match their environment. Depends on the situation. So, but for this simple example, I'm just going to use a Node Docker image. And I like to use the Alpine images just because they're nice and small. So if I'm doing a little demo or something like that, I use Alpine. Most clients aren't running Alpine. So in that case, I'll run a version that's usually based on Debian. So, and there's not a lot of differences, at least from a demo point of view, between Alpine and the normal Docker images. Probably the biggest difference you'll notice during this demo is instead of bash, I have to use the sh shell. But other than that, it's not too much difference. All right, and the other file we'll add is a docker compose.yaml file. All right, so it's not secret services. Just call it app. What is it? Build. So for those that don't know, this build dot just means find the Docker file in the same folder as the Docker Compose file and use that as your build. The other thing we could do in this case is we could put an image and we could do the node 20.9 whatever here. But just in the off chance that we need to add something unique to this image, I'm just going to leave it as a Docker file. And we'll just, we don't actually need any ports right now. So we're just going to muck around with the inside. So let's set up the volume. So in this case, it's just going to be, we're going to map the current folder on the host. That's what the thing before the colon means, this dot, to a folder inside the container at /app. And this will be at the root. And you can put this wherever you want. Like sometimes it's in var www if you have a web application, or home, wherever it goes. Okay, so now that's all set up. Let's build it. I don't remember if I cleared off all the Docker images before, so some of them might still be cached. So we'll see what happens here. I'm a little later than usual recording this. Well, I'm a day later than I usually try to record these videos on Monday, but yesterday was technically a holiday in Canada because of Remembrance Day and just other stuff came up. So, all right, so it looks like we have it there. And now if we run this, so I'm going to run it and then this --rm just tells Docker Compose to remove the container after it's run. So run that. Now we're inside the container, and we can see we have this app folder here. And that is what is mapped from here. So if we go inside this app folder, we should see the 2 Docker files in there. So there they are. And now this is where Docker volume is like a two-way sync, and this is where it differs a little bit from Docker Compose. So I can create a file, or the Docker Compose watch. I can create a file outside of the Docker container, so I'm creating it on the host. So if I call this outside.txt, and now if I go in here, it appears, right? And I can outside of the container. So I create that in there, and then if I see what's inside, or see what's inside the file, we can see it down here. So it kind of automatically syncs it up. And the reason it does that is because when a Docker volume is mounted, what happens is inside the container, if that folder, or I guess you can mount individual files, if that file or folder, most of the time in development, you're mounting a whole folder. If that folder does not exist, it'll be created. If the folder does exist, it'll actually kind of, inside the container, it'll be hidden. Like you won't be able to access any of the files that are inside that container, and the ones on the host will kind of, I don't want to say overwrite because they're not overwriting. They're just kind of laid on top of the files inside the container and just kind of hiding what's underneath. And then when you unmount it, those files that are inside the container will become visible again. So we'll do an example of that after. Okay, but we're inside the app folder. And now we can create a file inside. So this file is inside the container. And now if we go look here, look, it already synced up. It exists outside. And because this volume is mounted from the host, anything we create inside the host will be saved, or inside the container will be saved to the host file system and will live after we get rid of this container. So if we exit out of the container is no longer running. Oh, not PS, I want Docker PS. So you can see there's no container running, but all these files still exist here. So that's kind of the two-way sync that I talked about when I answered that. When I said it was a two-way sync, is you can make changes inside the container and then changes outside of the container. So let's give a quick example of having what's the best way to do this? Let's give a quick example of having a file that already exists and we're going to overlay on top of it. So I'm just going to run the container again because I want to see a file that already exists. So what's in var? Is there something in here? Okay. Or what's something I can override? What's in home? Oh, there's a node folder. Okay. What's in node? Oh, nothing. Okay, so that must be the one. They might have one user set up in there. So what I could do, so it didn't have any files in it though. Where's a? I don't want to overwrite anything that's really important. Is there one I can overwrite? What's in dev? Nope, probably not that. So okay, maybe we'll have to create one here. So, oh right, but I have to do it. So that if I run this RM is just going to remove it. Now, one thing to note is every time you use the run command, is it's going to create a new Docker container for us. So in this case, what I kind of want to show that the fact that the volume will override it is I want to do a Docker Compose up command. I need a command to keep it running. So what happened there is it must have ran. I'm not sure what the default command to run it is, but we need a command to keep it running. What's a good command just to keep? Can we just redirect? This is where I have to take a quick look. Command to keep Docker container running. All right, let me see. Oh, yeah, you can, I guess we could do this. We could do tail, -f, dev/null. Okay. I think that should keep it running. Let's see. All right, okay, cool. So now we kept that, we got that container, it's running. I need to open up another terminal here. So if we do a docker ps, we'll see that one's running here. There's our container that's running right there. And now if we, what am I thinking here? Docker compose exec app sh. So I want to attach to a running container. So now I'm attached to this one running container, and we can see we have the app folder here. But let's actually, what's the best way to demo that's going to overwrite stuff when we mount it? Oh man, I guess I should have put a little more thought into this. Let's see. So we're in the container. We have the app folder. Actually, we need to, I guess we need to run it without mounting it to app. Let's go to home. Sure, node. There was nothing here, I think, right? Yeah, nothing in this. So let's just create a file. Let's call it should be hidden.txt. Okay, so now we got that one file in the node folder there. So we can exit out of this. And docker, let's see. So we have just the one container, it's still running. So what we want to do is we're going to want to go back to our other one. Let's just stop it. I should have given the container a name. Now I have to try and run it. Alright, so it's going to stop it here in a minute. If I go back and see, there's my one container. It's was up and now it's exited, so that's good. It just has the one volume. Okay, so we're going to map another volume there. In this case, let's map. Sure, we can map the same thing to home node. And what we'll notice in this case is it should hide. Assuming, again, this is live coding. Assuming I did everything correctly, it should hide it. So let's see. Let's bring this back up. Okay. And now let's connect. Let's just make sure. Yeah, there's still just one. Oh, got a different container ID. So I don't know. Right. Sorry, let's go back here. Stop this for a second. I probably have to give these containers a name here. So. Let's see. We don't, let's, before we do this, let's just test that we didn't mess this up. So let's bring that up again. And now if we connect to it, if we go to home node, oh, right, okay, so my file doesn't exist. So I need to give it a name because it's creating a, whoops, it's creating a new, oh, geez. It's creating a new container every time. So I think we can give docker compose bring up same container. All right. Reuse container. I think I have to give it a name is what I have to do. Oh, we'll always reuse the container as long as their config hasn't changed. That's a bummer. Okay. I think I can use that. Reject that. Docker compose name for container. DB ports. Oh yeah, there it is. Container name. That's what I want, I think. So in this case, let's call it volume demo. And will that reuse it? Let's see. Oh, it says recreated. Okay. Attaching to my volume demo. Okay. So that's the name, my volume demo. Got a new container ID though. So let's try to /node. Let's create the should be hidden.txt file. Okay, now we can exit out of here. So now if we go back in, it should still exist. Okay. Let's see if we set this up correctly. Otherwise, we might just go on to the next step and I'll have to figure out what's going on. All right, so we stop that. All right, bring it up again. And let's see. Oh, okay, cool. So it still exists. That's fantastic. Now, I'm a little worried if I make a change, it'll create a new container name. So let's do a slightly different change. Let's just put some ports in there. Yeah, sure. Okay. Let's just make sure that didn't change anything. Stopping. Bring that up. Let's go here. CD home node. Oh, it did create a new container. Okay, did it even tell me back here when I just wasn't looking? No, it said recreated. Oh, that's really disappointing. Anyway, so I'm not 100% sure how to show. I guess I'll have to show it over an existing folder, right? Because it doesn't exist. Okay, so let's just show that it just temporarily hides files by overriding an existing folder. So let's override the home. Let's just override the entire home folder. So now the node login should be hidden. All right, so that's that. Now if we go here and we go home, we're going to see inside. So we don't see that node folder anymore. And if I can, oh man, I got to figure out how to actually reuse the actual Docker container. So, because it's creating new ones every time, which is what I don't want it to do. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I'm just not I'd have to dig through the documents, which I don't want to do right now. But anyway, you can see that it overrode, like that home folder actually existed, but it got not overwritten, but overlaid. It overlaid the host files on top of it. And so now you can see them there. So that's kind of what'll happen if a folder already exists. So that's it. The only thing the time that usually comes up is people with their node modules, because node modules usually live inside the same folder. Like it's just a root folder inside. Right, it's like node modules, and then when they create the Docker container, they'll create the Docker container, go in there, install all the node modules, and depending on how they have everything set up, they may or may not exist on your host folder. So some people use a specific volume mapping for the node modules folder, or in my case, a lot of times I use Ruby. And the gems folder is not usually installed in the root. The gems usually live inside. I think it's like user. It depends on different locations on different operating systems, but a lot of times they live in there. And then when you get rid of the container and then recreate it, all your gems are gone. And then people wonder why that happened. And it's because they weren't mounted to a volume, and every time you create it, you got a new container. So, okay. Let's just get out of this and those. stop that. Okay, so now let's set up Docker Compose watch there. So we don't need this home anymore. I'll just give it like a chair name. Wasn't doing what I wanted to do. Ports we'll need a little bit. And then, so now I can never remember the exact, where is, there we go. I have to look it up because I haven't used it enough times to know. Okay, so we need to develop watch. Right, and then they often say ignore the node modules, but I don't think we'll do that right now, but just cut that watch. So there's a couple actions you can do with watch. Sync is probably going to be the most popular one, but one's like a rebuild. So you can tell it to rebuild if it sees certain changes in... Sorry, I'm just setting it up. If it sees certain changes to certain files, you can tell it to rebuild the container. So if it saw changes, I think it's set up here. Oh, yeah. So if it saw changes in the package.json, it'll rebuild your Docker container to include the new node modules for you. Let's not do this for now because we don't have any. Get rid of those ports. All right, so what we're saying is we're going to, and let's get rid of the volume. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch. The path is the current directory again, and the target is /app on the Docker container. Now, the other thing to note is because this folder does not exist, so I have no idea. I haven't tried this. I don't think this will work because this does not exist inside the actual container. So let's take a look. We do have a container there. Oh yeah, and for Docker watch to work, first of all you have to do Docker Compose up to bring it up. I wonder if it's going to complain because that app folder doesn't exist. I'm curious. Because what we should probably do is inside this Docker file here is create that app folder. So now you can go Docker Compose. I think it's just watch. Let's see. All right, so now it looks like it's watching. And now if we go, let's create another terminal here. Docker Compose exec app sh. Right, yeah, see there's no app folder here, so I don't think anything's going to happen. Let's try, so let's bring this up. And I'm going to go new file, blah. Okay. It said syncing changes. Did it actually put anything? Did it create that? Oh, okay. That's interesting. So it did notice. Now, the other thing to note is it didn't automatically sync everything in here either. So Docker Compose watch, again, it doesn't take all the stuff here. It just watches for current changes. That's cool that it created the app folder. But now this app folder will exist inside the container. It's not just overlaid, as you can see, and like I said before, it only syncs with the host to the container. It doesn't sync the other way. So if I created what should we call this, foo? If I create foo inside here, right? So now foo exists, but there's no syncing here to anything on the host. It's like this file, as far as the host is concerned, it doesn't exist. So I guess I'll show quickly what you would normally do, because you want all of these files. Let's get rid of blah. Okay, well now I'm curious. Let's see. So we'll stop this. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to bring it up again, and I'm going to see if that app folder still exists. It probably will, because it should be reusing that same container. Okay, let's go to that third. We got so many. Oop, nope. Sorry, go back to the third window. Oh yeah, okay. So the app folder still exists, and we have the okay, just the foo in there. What happened to the blah? Did that sync happen when I deleted it? Oh, yeah, it synced before when I deleted blah. Okay. Okay, so the sync worked. I deleted blah, it removed it from there. So that's great. So, but I was going to show how you would normally, like if you were doing development, how you would normally do this. So normally what you would do is in your Docker file, you would have something like right, you would, how the, oh, my brain is, so you'd set some, is it just dir? Oh, there. So we make this, we'd set our working directory, and then we would copy our local folder to the /app directory. So whenever we built our container, it's going to take all these files and copy them inside of there. So, but in this case, we have to actually rebuild the container. Now, if we just run up, we're not going to sync it. We won't do the Docker Compose watch. So we just go up and we go inside the container. So notice by default, because we set the working directory, we go right inside the app folder. Now, if we go here, we don't have sync enabled. So if we were to put test.txt here, it's not going to just like magically appear in here because the sync, we haven't enabled the sync yet. Now, if we enable the Docker Compose, or not the sync, the watch, if we enable the watch later, it still won't work, which is kind of like it's not smart enough to like figure out and map what the differences between the files are in the host and the on the host and inside the container, which is kind of a bummer. So like if I turn this on now, I'm assuming that's what it does actually. Let's see. Okay, so we're watching. Right, there's no test, but I think if I make a change to test, I made a change. Let me save that. I think now it will appear. Oh yeah, okay, so notice the change. Yeah, there it is. Okay, okay. So, yeah, so that's kind of the difference between, and that's why I like that, and I guess that's why I said that Docker volume is like a two-way sync, and that I like using it better for development than I currently do for Docker Compose watch, because it's got a little bit of this extra baggage, I guess, or this like some of these things where it doesn't, because it's not overlaying that file system, you might miss out on some files. Like if you accidentally added a file or two here before you ran Docker Compose watch, you might be missing some files on your inside your container, which could cause a problem. So for me at least, it might be, I don't know, maybe others, again, if you use Docker Compose watch and think I used to use volumes and now use watch, let me know. But I think, again, kind of going back to my previous video, I would stick with Docker Compose volumes. At least that's what I'm going to stick with for now for development, just because I think they're a superior, I think it's superior way to develop. But I could be mistaken. So it would not be the first time I was wrong. All right, so I don't know. I think that was a good way to answer that fellow's question. Let's see. Is there anything that I missed there? So I kind of wish sometimes maybe I should get another person actually on the call with me. Is if you go to this video, let's pause that there. I actually work with another. Oh, darn it! I work with another fellow here to set up a Docker container. We talk about volumes and stuff here. So this is an interesting. This is in the Dev Edmonton channel. But yeah, we set up a whole Docker container here. So if you're curious about how and it's a little dated. I've changed some things in Docker itself, and Docker Compose and stuff has changed, but it gives a good idea about how to set up a container to use for development. So, yeah. So hopefully, Victoria JI, hopefully that answered your question. Is volume a two-way sync? I guess we got a little sidetracked. Mostly me curious about how Docker Compose Watch works, but. So yes, it's kind of a two-way sync, but it won't, any files, like any volumes that are mounted to the container, once the volume is unmounted, won't exist inside that container. And if they overlaid on top of existing files, those files will suddenly magically reappear inside the, inside the Docker container. So I think that's probably a good place to end the video. I was thinking about setting up an Express view and just kind of going through, but I think this is probably pretty good. I didn't even really need to use a JS. I don't know why I spent all that time setting up the Node.js environment. Well, it's good for me to learn all that. Like I set it all up here, and I don't do a lot of Node development. Just most of my clients just haven't worked with it, so it's been interesting to play around in this environment. So, all right. So yeah, let's wrap it up there. This will be a little shorter video. So yeah, again, if you thought this was a useful video, let me know. If you didn't think it was useful, also let me know, preferably constructively and nicely. You can either do it in YouTube comments, or you can send me an email to ask@SaturdayMP.com. You can also reach out to me if you need some consulting work done, if you need help developing an application, just would like to pair, like you have some coaching, or you need to pair on a problem, have an old legacy app you need to upgrade, having some issues with security, that you can find me at SaturdayMP.com, just the website. There's some contact info there. You can book just a free consult with me there. We can chat about your problem and see if I can help. And if I can't help, then hopefully I can recommend someone else who can. And I think that's everything, all the housekeeping. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. And hopefully I'll hear from you soon. Oh, the other thing is, for those of you that were hoping that this episode would be a continuation of the Hack the Box, I'll record that later to try and get the root key. So hopefully we'll get hopefully we'll create that. Oh, maybe, I don't know about later today. I don't know if I have time today. We might have to wait till next week. So, yeah, but thank you everyone for watching. Again, I really appreciate your time and attention, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Talk to you later. Bye.